Get ready for your daily dose of WordPress and web development tips, tricks, and insights to help you find success with WordPress. You're listening to WP the Podcast with your hosts, David Blackman and Tim Streifler.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of WP the Podcast, brought to you by WP Gears. I'm David Blackman.
And I'm Tim Streifler.
Today we're going to talk about consistency and persistence versus failing fast. And it may be a little bit confusing, it may not. Tim's going to give us kind of a little intro as to what we mean by the title of this topic, and then we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, and this is really sort of a continuation of the topic that we did yesterday, episode 637. So definitely listen to that after this if you haven't already, or you can pause this episode and listen to yesterday's first. Yesterday we talked about the tale of the tortoise and the hare and how it relates to business, and really kind of the lesson being consistency and persistence pays off, and effort that you put in today, you might not see the full benefit, but later down the road you will by sticking with it and being consistent, no matter what business you're in, whether you're in client services and you're, making connections and getting referrals and stuff, or you're, doing content marketing, the value of doing consistency there. But there's a whole nother kind of businessy term called failing fast. And this is something I learned, I think originally in school, taking entrepreneurship courses, and the concept of failing fast. And this is really, really important in like the startup world and in, new businesses where you're iterating and you're pivoting and stuff. And you have to recognize when something isn't working, and you fail fast, meaning you move on to something else and you pivot and you iterate and, and so forth. And so those can sometimes seem like conflicting values, right? Consistency and persistence, and then failing fast, because it's like, okay, well, you just said be consistent and stick with it and be persistent, even if you're not seeing the results right away. But then how do you fail fast, which is basically, changing it up and recognizing that something's failing. And so how do you recognize when to do what, when to fail fast and when to be consistent and persistent? And so that's kind of what we wanted to talk about today. And this is one of those topics where there's not an exact right answer or an exact wrong answer and so forth. And so, sometimes it requires kind of going with your gut or getting outside counsel, mentoring, coaching, that sort of thing. And I'm going to start off because David was like, I don't know what the right answer is. And I was like, either do I. But I'm going to just think out loud here and say that, first of all, as I mentioned, there isn't an exact right answer, but I think if you are following things that are known to be best practice, then it is worth sticking with it. So for example, if you know that like in your client service business, that it's all about relationships, and something that David and I preach all the time is it's all about people wanting to hire people that they know and trust, or someone that they know and trust, knows and trusts, right? Referrals, right? And so if you know that principle, then you can go out and make connections with business owners, and you'll know that eventually that's going to pay off because you're establishing yourself as an expert in the community and so forth. And, chances are if you keep doing that, it's going to work because that's best practice. With failing fast, it's more on the other side of things when you're doing something that maybe hasn't been done before, a new business model, or a new type of product or something, and it's, you're out there and you're not sure if it works yet, and so you kind of need to wait and see, and then if it doesn't work, okay, you can pivot. And so that's kind of how I distinguish it in my head between the two. It's not an exact formula by any means, but if you're following best practices for doing something, chances are if you stick with it, it's going to work. Would you agree, David?
Tim, you just stole my thunder, brother. You just stole my thunder. I was thinking the exact same thing. Tim and I we don't really talk about pre-podcast stuff, what we're going to say. We kind of dive into it, and we let our own experiences kind of share our own experience, so we're not biased and stuff. And we feel like that tandem, that dual, perspective tends to be really valuable for our listeners. But this is one time where we could have talked about this ahead of time, because I couldn't agree more with what he said. The whole time I was thinking about consistency and persistence in that realm. was the comment that he mentioned, like blogging, for example. And we know that search engines, for example, content is king. So we know for sure, 100% certain, that if you produce valuable, relevant content over an extended period of time, search engines are going to begin to see you as an authority in that subject. Don't know when it is. Typically will happen somewhere between 6 and 18 months. That's typically our experience. And so we know that that's a tried and true thing that you can do for your business to get traffic about your specific topic. And that's one thing that you can do. And I think when I think about failing fast, kind of what he was talking about, I think a lot about MVPs. A lot of businesses, they, especially startups and stuff, and where they use this phrase is they do a minimum viable product, which is an MVP. So they want to see, is there interest in it? They want to stick their toe in the water before diving full on their whole body into the deep end to make sure that, hey, this is a viable thing. People are going to want to purchase this. And when they do find out about that, then you can go with the consistency and persistence of your track. So, question that Tim asked, and, what's the answer? How do you know when, I agree with him again. I think that you've just got to trust your gut. You got to kind of give, your audience. Hopefully, in your perspective arena, your audience better than, your business guy down the road who may not know your business as well as you. And you're just going to have to trust your gut, your intuition, and make a judgment. And then if it doesn't pan out over an extended period of time and you're not making money, well, guess what? That's going to force you to quit. You're going to know, hey, I got to stop. I can't keep doing this. So hope I didn't repeat what Tim said. So.
No, that was good, and it actually made me think here. It's not always one or the other, and we kind of set this topic up because in some cases, it is one or the other, but they're not mutually exclusive all the time. So, for example, you can be consistently and persistently trying different things, right? And then failing fast when those things aren't working out, right? So if you think about marketing being, they say marketing is, a series of tests and experiments and trial and error and so forth. And so, and then once something works, you keep doing it and stuff. And so if you think of that in your business, of a way of getting new clients or getting new customers, acquiring customers and whatnot, you can be consistently and persistently trying new things, and then if they fail, you fail fast and you don't keep doing it if it's not working, and you move on to something else where the big picture, you're being consistent and persistent, and you're going to be the tortoise in the long run, but in the short term, you're failing fast. And so you can kind of do a combination of the two. So you can kind of look at it that way too, and it's not consistency and persistence versus failing fast, it's and failing fast. So
boom.
Boom.
Boom. We hope you've gotten a lot out of these last two topics. Guess what? It's not over with yet. Because tomorrow in episode 639, we're going to talk about the rule of compounding effort and how it relates to web design. If you want to find out what compounding effort is, you're going to have to tune in tomorrow and listen to tomorrow's podcast episode. Tim, until tomorrow, we'll see you then.
Take care. Bye-bye.
We've come to the end of today's episode of WP the Podcast. Join us tomorrow for more daily tips and strategies designed to help you run your WordPress business toward success. Remember to subscribe to WP the Podcast so you can stay up to date with each episode. And don't forget to rate and review us. We'll see you again tomorrow right here on WP the Podcast.